As I mentioned, we welcome you to Light the Tower here on the Horn and 1049, 1019, and AM 1260. And, of course, you hear all of our Texas women's basketball broadcasts, all of them on 1053 The Bat here in Austin. My name is Craig Way, alongside Jeff Howell, and we're very pleased to be joined by the brand-new head women's basketball coach at the University of Texas. Vic Schaefer joins us now. Coach Craig here, along with Jeff. Glad to have you aboard, and glad that you're now part of the University of Texas family. Welcome to the program this morning.
Craig, Jeff, thank you for having me. Just really excited and appreciate all you do for our program and for the great university.
Well, the first thing I got to tell you is this. I noticed right away that you and I had one thing in common. Both of us were born in hospitals that were great hospitals at one time and no longer exist. Brackenridge for you, for me, Moses Cone Memorial Hospital in Greensboro, North Carolina, that sort of thing. But the whole native Texan thing, the fact that your family roots there in Fayette County with your mom and dad and all that sort of stuff, that had to be a major factor. And I know you talked about it a little bit in the teleconference yesterday on what drew you back home, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it all kind of plays into it. And, I have so many great memories growing up in LaGrange on weekends at my grandmother's house. And we moved at an early age from Austin, moved to the south side of Houston, grew up there all my life. But we were in LaGrange just about every weekend. And so many great memories. And, of course, both my parents are buried there in LaGrange. And, it's just an opportunity. My sister's 14 and a half years older than I am. She was my reading and spelling teacher and my kindergarten teacher. But she was my reading and spelling teacher from the first through the eighth grade, and actually gave me my first C, which resulted in a first good butt whipping by the colonel. But, we just I do have so many ties, and obviously I've continued to recruit that state, even here before when I was at Mississippi State. And so it's just been 45 years, I think, of 59 have been in the great state of Texas. So I always come back there, y'all, in the summer and fish in the biggest, inshore fishing tournament on the coast down in Port O'Connor. And that's kind of one of my passions is trout and red fishing. So I'm going to be a little bit closer to my honey hole.
Vic, do you have a commitment from your sister since she's in Pearland now that she'll actually be able to attend some games since Starkville's not easy to get to even from Houston?
No, it's not. Hey, Craig, I took a bath from her the other day when it broke, and I hadn't called her yet to kind of tell because this all happened so fast. I mean, she initiated the older sister kick your butt speech on me because I hadn't, really visited with her about any of this. And she said, I have to find out about this on social media. And I'm like, man, sis, I'm sorry. This has all been a whirlwind. And, you can pull the belt out and whip me when I see you.
We're joined by Vic Schaefer, the brand new women's basketball head coach at the University of Texas. Vic is the guy who does the play-by-play for Texas, and that includes women's basketball. I've had a chance to see your teams at Mississippi State, the game over in Starkville a few years ago, doing that one, the two in Austin, as well as your time on Coach Blair's staff at Texas A&M. And I was struck by something you mentioned in the teleconference yesterday when you talked about the whole thing about being tough and aggressive as a basketball team, and you said it doesn't say anything about your skill level, but I'm curious as to get your thoughts because I saw it on display at the Hump there with the game in Starkville. I saw it on display with the games in Austin, but I'd like to hear you describe what in your mind really constitutes a tough, physical, aggressive basketball team.
Yeah, Craig, it's an attitude, really. It's an edge, and it's how you play the game, how you honor the game. Playing hard on the floor after loose balls, taking charges, attacking the rim, attacking rebounds with an aggression and a passion. And it's just how you play. I give our kids all the credit in building our fan base here because it was how we built this program. When you can't recruit skill set, when we got here, we had to recruit a mindset. And, I just think that's got to be your mindset. It's a competitive spirit. If you don't have a competitive spirit, it's going to be really hard to play for me. And so it's just, for us, we take such great pride in having that tough, physical, aggressive mentality. And that's how Pat Summitt's teams played in their heyday. Jody Conrad's teams in their heyday. And it's really what I built my philosophy on, watching those two programs early in my career. And, even though the game is evolved and changed into an offensive game, which, we've adjusted, Craig. I had that Minister of Defense kind of tag for so long, but, I've really, my teams, if you look offensively, we've been tops in the country the last 3 or 4 years, finished 0.5 points from being the number one team in the country offensively 2 years ago. So, I understand the game has changed, but we haven't changed. We're just going to coach better and teach better. So many coaches across the country have just said, heck, we can't do it. We can't play man. They're calling every foul. Anytime you look at them wrong, we're just going to stand around in a 2-3 zone. Well, watching my teams, that isn't how we play. We haven't thrown up our arms and gone, heck, we can't do it anymore. We just coach better, teach better. We're still going to have that mindset, that competitive spirit, and that toughness. I've had kids play for me, Craig, that took over 100 charges in their career. My daughter took 90 in her career. And so it's a mindset. And what you want, if I can just get people to come to one game, if they'll come to one University of Texas women's basketball game, they'll never miss another one, because they're going to sit there and they're going to see a team that's tough, physical, and aggressive, blue collar. They're going to want their son, their daughter. They're going to look at our team and go, you know what? I want you to play like her. I want you to play like her. I want you to, it's all about that. And for us, that's what you got to hang your hat on.
Coach, you mentioned this in the video conference yesterday, and I was kind of wondering if you could expound on it. But you mentioned things like post-game autograph sessions and things you did like that to kind of community outreach type stuff at Mississippi State. How important is it for you to make sure that your program and your players are connected, not just with the University of Texas, but with the greater Austin community, and that everybody really gets involved and really gets invested when they come to watch your team at the Drum?
Yeah, Jeff, it's critical. It's critical. Again, that's part of building your program. It's not just wins and losses. It's not just X's and O's. It's your fan base. It's people that travel with you. It's people that go with you to the conference tournament, that go to the NCAA tournament with you. But it's your kids, again, in today's world, man, it's all about instant gratification. It's that phone in their hand. It's texting. Nobody knows how to communicate anymore other than via text. And for us, I call my team, here at Mississippi State in the past, the people's team. They really believed that those were their kids, because after every game, whether we're at home or on the road, if we win, we go in the stands. We hug mamas and kiss babies, or kiss mamas and hug babies. But we're going to spend time. We're going to sign every autograph. We're going to take every picture. And a lot of times, y'all, it's the same people every game. But you know what? It doesn't matter. We're going to do that, and I'm telling you, it usually takes us 45 minutes to an hour to get to the locker room after a victory. But if that's what it takes to put 9,000 people a night in your stands, which is about what we averaged a year ago, if that's what it takes to have 4 crowds over 10,000, which is what we had a year ago, if that's what it takes to have the largest crowd in the history of your building for any game, men, women, any event, concert, that's what we're going to do. And you know what? That's easy. And if that's what it takes to give you a connection with your community, with your fan base, I just think that's what you need to do. And our kids embrace those opportunities and those moments, and they understand the importance of that. And it's a way for them to say thank you. And again, that's part of teaching kids today. That's a lost art of saying, hey, thank you. And so it's really important to me, guys.
Visiting with Vic Schaefer, brand new women's basketball head coach at the University of Texas. Craig Way, Jeff Howe with you here on Light the Tower. Vic, you mentioned yesterday Jody Conrad. You talked about Kathy Harson, who, by the way, is my broadcast partner on the women's basketball game. So you've got that as well. But how important was it because of the knowing Coach Conrad that you knew from years back, and Kathy when she was on Pat's staff as her ops director those years, those kinds of things, knowing people like that as well as your own connections in the state of Texas and Austin in formulating your decision that you wanted to be a part of this back here in Austin at UT?
Critical. It was just so important to me that they were good with it, that they believed that we were the right, that we were the right choice for the job. And I just, along with Chris Plonsky, I mean, you're talking about, to me, Jody and Chris, those are two really icons. I don't know what the word is, but just people that have meant so much to women's college basketball as well as women's college athletics. And for me, it was just critical and so important to know that they believed that this is what needed to be done. And I as I said, I spoke to both of them and was really very candid and honest about that because I have so much respect for them. And it was just important for me to know that they too believe that this is what, this was the right thing. And this is, hey, Vic, you're it. Let's go. We're here to support you because, man, those two have been around so long, seen so much, and have done, again, so much. I'm going to tell you a quick story about Chris Plonsky. When I almost lost my son in 10 while I was at A&M, and he was in that horrific accident at age 14, I got a lot of notes, a lot of messages, a lot of phone calls, text messages, and I didn't take any phone calls during that 39-day period where he's on life support, he's in intensive care, he's at TIR in Houston in rehab. But one note in particular stood out to me, and that was a note from Chris Plonsky. And it when you grow up in the rivalry, y'all, there's just not a lot of middle ground. Yeah. But that really opened my eyes and changed. It just really brought me to ground, to a really level ground zero. Like, you know what? I mean, it just really struck me as really special. I've never forgotten that. Never. And every time I've seen her, and we've been in the room in New York City with 75 people. I was one of 3 head coaches. Chris and Coach Conrad were in there as administrators and icons of the game, and we're all sitting around and we're talking about what's best for women's basketball. But it just always stuck with me, and I always appreciated her reaching out because she didn't have to, and she could be concerned about crossing whatever you want to say, whatever. But it just really meant a lot to me, guys, and I've always really appreciated that and cherished that.
Coach, you've mentioned your time at A&M a couple of times now, and you obviously know how important recruiting is in this state. Kind of 2 questions on recruiting, Coach. One, how important is it going to be for you and your staff to win recruiting battles in this state? Number 2, with this interesting time that we're in right now, and there's no blueprint for this, have you started to maybe get a feel on how you attack recruiting, given what the limitations are right now with what the NCAA has put on recruiting with the extended dead period and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had 3 kids from the state of Texas on my teams here at state, and all 3 of them played in national championship games. 1 played in 2 of them. One was 38 miles from College Station and 30 miles from Austin, and she came all the way to this place here at Mississippi State and was a 2-time All-American. So it's critical to continue to be able to recruit in that state. And of course, there's a lot of good programs in that state, and you've got to be able to go against tremendous staffs and tremendous head coaches, Hall of Fame coaches. And so, we've been doing it. We've continued to try to recruit that state, throughout our time. But, it's always going to be a state that has great high school basketball. We have tremendous high school coaches in that state, tremendous AAU programs, and so that's always going to be critical. This is a unique time, and it's going to call for some unique strategy, and we've already been doing that. Good gosh, you'd just be amazed. Just in 24, 36 hours of what's, taken place and the doors that have been opened and the interest at the University of Texas. And so it's exciting, guys. I'm telling you, I'm so stoked and so excited about the opportunity. I truly believe that my job is to restore the lore and restore this program, that it deserves to be back in the national prominence that it once lived in every day. And, I believe we're going to do it. There's no question in my mind.
Visiting with Vic Schaefer, the new women's head basketball coach at the University of Texas. All right, here's a fun question for you, Vic, because I've got again, from calling the games in the past, I got this vision in my mind. I can still see Morgan Williams hitting the game-winning jumper against UConn in the Final Four semifinal. I can still see Tierra McAllen just absolutely dominating inside in the game in Starkville or the games in Austin or whatever. So if you had your druthers, you can have either a dominating post presence or an outstanding ball-handling guard who can make a clutch shot for you, and you had to choose one or the other, at least to start off to build your team, what would it be?
Well, if you're asking me a position, I can answer that. I can't answer if you want me to choose between Morgan Williams and Tierra McAllen. Man, those are two special kids. I love those kids. They've meant so much to our program, to me personally as well as professionally. I mean, if you're going to start your program, you win with guard play. Now, you win championships with guard play and size. But you cannot win. You cannot win at the highest level. You cannot win consistently without great guard play. And so I do think that lead guard is critical. But, I'm going to take both those kids every time. You talk about warriors. My gosh, those kids were warriors, just absolute monsters. And you got to have people like that, y'all. I'm just telling you, we recruit to a fit. Those kids fit. They bought in. They were all in. Great, really tremendous leaders, passionate players. And that's what you got to have no matter what position. But both those kids were special, continue to be special. Tierra caught FaceTime with me on Monday when she heard the news. She's driving around Indianapolis where she plays now. And, Morgan's been on social media, just so happy for her. So, but I do think, again, you got to have guard play. That's critical.
Well, here's where I was going with that, Vic. Obviously, and you were asked about it yesterday, but obviously pretty well what you have here in place. Obviously, with a talented guard like Celeste Taylor, and you said you kind of recruited her a little bit. Obviously, yep. you've got a talented post in Charlie Collier, and you got some other pieces as well as what you kind of have a vision for what you would like to see, not only out of those two, but out of your team once you start to put your team together as a whole.
No question. You got the bookends. That's what I'm calling those two right now. They're my bookends, and I've got to build between those two, which I believe we are. And I'm anxious to see. I'm just not quite familiar with the rest of the team, but I'm obviously going to spend a lot of time in the coming weeks and months watching film and getting there. But then also knowing our style of play, how we're going to play. Again, we recruit to a fit. And you know what? I believe, starting with those two, they are definitely a fit. And I'm excited about having a chance to develop those kids and take them to where they want to go with their individual game, as well as what they want to do as a collective group in winning championships. I visited with both those kids. They're all about it. They're ready to go. They're excited, and so am I. And you want kids like that are like, hey, Coach, we're all in. Let's go to work. I want to get better. I need you to push me. And so that's what I really felt like in talking to those two young ladies, is that this is what they want. They're excited about it. And so it really makes it a great, a great dynamic and a fun environment.
Well, we're looking forward to getting you here in town. Looking forward to, after all of this passes, to get a chance to visit with you. I can tell you this right now, Vic. In the days when I would do the pregame show and I would do an opposing coach interview, when Coach Blair came on in those days, I would have to expand the pregame show because he would go 7.5 minutes on a 3-minute slotted pregame interview. So maybe I'll just dispense with that, and then we can sit down and talk more about it. But I appreciate the time and look forward to visiting with you, and glad to have you in town. And I know we'll all be excited when all this passes over and we get back to work. And I appreciate you joining us this morning, Coach.
Hey, Craig, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate all you do for our great game and for women's basketball and for the University of Texas. And thank you so much for your time. And until next time, praise the Lord and hook 'em horns.